My journey started in New York on Amtrak, continued through Panama City Beach, and finally brought me back to New Orleans for one more night. Before taking the Crescent back to New York, I wanted to walk through the French Quarter and see what this city felt like at night and during the day. I arrived at the Olivier House Hotel in the French Quarter. Luckily, my room was upgraded, and when I walked in, I realized this was not a typical hotel room. It was a loft-style room, with a tall ceiling and a staircase inside the room. The bed was upstairs, almost like a small bedroom floating above the main space. Downstairs, there was a sitting area and the rest of the room. It felt more like staying inside an old New Orleans house that had been converted into a hotel. The room was a little unusual, but that was exactly what made it memorable. From the upper terrace, I could briefly see the modern downtown skyline behind the older rooftops of the French Quarter. It felt like several old houses connected through narrow hallways, open-air walkways, terraces, and courtyards. As I kept walking, it almost felt like a small maze. Some hallways were narrow and dark, while others were open to the outside, with natural light coming in. From above, I could also look down into the courtyard and see the pool. After that, I came back downstairs. Near the lobby, there was a small sitting room where guests could relax. With the antique furniture, old paintings, soft lighting, and quiet atmosphere, it felt more like an old house than a hotel. There was also a coffee station nearby, which made the space feel even more comfortable. Then I walked back into the courtyard to see the pool from the first floor. When I was looking for a place to stay in the French Quarter, this courtyard pool immediately caught my attention. It didn't look like a normal hotel pool. It was hidden inside the building, surrounded by red walls, balconies, plants, and old brick. Behind the pool, there was another small courtyard garden. That area felt almost like something from a storybook. Colorful, peaceful, and tucked away from the busy streets outside. It wasn't just the room that made this hotel memorable. It was the whole building. The courtyards, the narrow passages, the pool, and all these little hidden spaces. The French Quarter is probably more famous for its nightlife, especially around Bourbon Street. But during the day, the streets felt much quieter. So instead of staying around the bar streets, I decided to walk toward the riverside. On the way to the Mississippi River, I could see the streetcar tracks crossing the road. As I got closer to the riverfront, I saw people lining up near the dock. That was where the Steamboat NATCHEZ was boarding. I didn't take the cruise this time because I had plans to meet a friend who had moved from New York to New Orleans. So I just walked around the boat and took a closer look from the outside. The big red paddle wheel in the back made it feel like an old Mississippi River steamboat. Through the lower windows, I could also see what looked like the engine room with large machinery inside. People were boarding the boat, walking up and down the stairs and finding their seats. Even without taking the cruise, just seeing the boat gave me a small sense of New Orleans' old river culture. Next to the river, I also saw a small spot covered with locks. It looked like a place where couples or visitors leave locks behind, almost like a little memory wall by the Mississippi River. In the distance, I could see the towers of St. Louis Cathedral. As I walked closer, the area around Jackson Square started to come into view. Before it was called Jackson Square, this area was known as Place d'Armes, the main public square of the old colonial city. Later, the square was renamed in honor of Andrew Jackson. Jackson became famous here after leading American forces to victory against the British in the Battle of New Orleans in 1815. Today, his statue stands in the center of the square, facing St. Louis Cathedral. Here, New Orleans felt less like a party city and more like an old city with a long history. I stopped by Café du Monde, which first opened in 1862. This place is famous for beignets and café au lait. A beignet is like a French-style donut covered with powdered sugar. It is one of the classic foods people try when they visit New Orleans. I walked into a souvenir shop. There were alligator souvenirs, voodoo-style figures, Native American dolls, and statues of black musicians all around the store. I walked away from the busy streets and into a quieter part of the French Quarter. It felt unexpected to see a New York baseball flag here in New Orleans. Maybe someone from New York moved here, or maybe they were just a Mets fan. I stepped into an antique shop. The shop had a very old Louisiana feeling, with objects that seemed connected to the city's past. It felt different from a normal souvenir store. Instead of just selling things for tourists, it felt like the shop was holding small pieces of New Orleans history. Old furniture, decorations, and objects from another time. Hot sauce is a big part of Louisiana food culture. It is not just about making food spicy. In New Orleans and Louisiana cooking, hot sauce adds heat, vinegar, and flavor to dishes like gumbo, jambalaya, fried seafood, and po' boys. One of the most famous hot sauces in the world, Tabasco, also comes from Louisiana. New Orleans gets around 19 million visitors a year, but the city itself has only around 360,000 residents. Tourism is one of the biggest forces in the city's economy, especially here in the French Quarter. But New Orleans is not only a tourist city. The broader economy also depends on the port, trade, energy, healthcare, education, and local services. Still, walking around Bourbon Street before evening, it was easy to feel how much of the city's image is built around visitors, restaurants, bars, music, and nightlife. Before sunset, I met up with a friend who had moved from New York to New Orleans. After exploring the city during the day, it was nice to spend the evening with someone who actually lives here. We had dinner together at Bourbon House on Bourbon Street. We ordered bourbon shrimp, ribeye steak, and fish. The food was excellent, but we were talking so much that I almost forgot to taste it. It was a good chance to slow down for a bit, talk about New Orleans, and hear what it feels like to live here after moving from New York. After dinner, we walked together back toward the Riverwalk area, where my friend had parked earlier. One thing that felt funny to me was seeing her drive. She had lived in Manhattan for a long time, where you really don't need a car. But in New Orleans, daily life feels much more car-dependent. After dinner, I said goodbye to my friend at the Riverwalk parking lot. Then I started walking back toward the French Quarter. It was just a short walk from the parking area toward the riverfront and the dock. When I saw the streetcar passing by at night, carrying people through the city, the lights, the tracks, the old streetcar, and the dark city around it almost felt like a scene from an animated fantasy world. It reminded me a little of Spirited Away, a Japanese animated film where the world changes into something mysterious after dark. Maybe it was just the nighttime atmosphere, but New Orleans started to feel like a completely different city after dark. It was mid-May, and maybe because it was not the busiest season, the street was not as crowded as I expected. I thought there would be more drunk people everywhere, but at this time of the evening, it still felt like the street was just warming up. One thing Bourbon Street is known for is that people can walk around with drinks in plastic cups. That open container culture is part of what makes the street feel different from most places in the United States. At night, Bourbon Street felt mostly like a pedestrian street, with people walking freely between the bars, restaurants, and neon signs. As the neon signs started to light up, the whole street began to feel a little unreal. In some ways, it felt like a smaller, rougher version of Las Vegas. In another way, it also reminded me of a bigger and wilder version of Duval Street in Key West. I also saw mounted police patrolling the street on horseback. Compared with regular police cars, the horses somehow made the scene feel a little more relaxed and approachable. What made Bourbon Street more interesting was the architecture. Many buildings had long iron balconies on the second floor, and people were standing above the street, drinking, watching, and talking. Most of the bars were open to the street, so the music from each place spilled outside and mixed together. That made the street feel lively, but also loud and a little chaotic. One thing I noticed was that I did not see many children or families around here. Bourbon Street felt much more like an adult nightlife street than a family tourist area. That probably has to do with the bars, alcohol, and late-night atmosphere. New Orleans also has juvenile curfew rules, and the French Quarter has had stricter curfew enforcement for minors at night. So by this time, the crowd felt mostly adult. Tourists, groups of friends, people drinking, and people looking for music. New Orleans is known as the birthplace of jazz, so I expected to hear more traditional jazz around the city. But on Bourbon Street, the music felt very different from what I imagined. I heard more party music, cover songs, rock, and pop than classic New Orleans jazz. To be honest, Bourbon Street was not exactly the romantic jazz city I had pictured in my mind. It felt more touristy, louder, and a little rougher. But at the same time, that chaotic energy is probably what many people come here to experience. And to be fair, maybe I was not in the right places for traditional jazz. Bourbon Street seemed more focused on nightlife and party music, while the deeper jazz culture of New Orleans may be easier to find in other venues or neighborhoods. Even though this area is called the French Quarter, many of the buildings did not feel purely French to me. After major fires in 1788 and 1794, much of the old city had to be rebuilt. And during that rebuilding, the architecture became a mix of French, Spanish, Creole, and Caribbean influences. That may be why the buildings here feel so different from other American cities. The long iron balconies, colorful walls, open storefronts, and upper floor terraces all give the street a very unique character. At times, the colors and tropical feeling even reminded me a little of places like Miami. But here, everything felt older, rougher, and more layered with history. And this area was not always just about tourism. New Orleans grew as a port city connected to the Mississippi River, trade, shipping, and commerce. Even the Four Seasons Hotel near the river was originally the World Trade Center of New Orleans. Today it looks like a luxury hotel, but the building reminds you that this city was once deeply tied to international trade and business. So behind the restaurants, bars, hotels, and nightlife, New Orleans still carries the history of a working port city. Walking through Bourbon Street at night, I started to imagine how this street might have looked in the past. Before electric lights, the street must have been much darker, lit by gas lamps or candlelight. There may have been horse carriages, wooden doors, dimly lit bars, and music coming from inside each building. And the music would have sounded different too. Not electric guitars or loudspeakers, but piano, brass instruments, saxophones, drums, and voices spilling out into the street. Now the street is brighter, louder, and filled with neon signs, open bars, amplified music, and people moving from one place to another. That is the Bourbon Street we see today. So I wondered what this street might look like in the future. Maybe one day neon signs will be replaced by holograms or digital lights. Maybe the music and the crowds will change again. But somehow I feel like Bourbon Street will still keep the same basic energy. Lights, music, drinks, balconies, and people looking for a night they will remember. The Olivier House Hotel was originally built in 1839 as the private home of Madame Olivier. Today, it operates as a historic boutique hotel with 42 unique guest rooms in the French Quarter. But what made this place interesting was not just the history. It was the way the whole building was arranged. Instead of one simple indoor hallway, the hotel had courtyards, narrow passages, balconies, open-air walkways, and small hidden corners connected together. That kind of layout made sense in New Orleans. In a hot and humid city, courtyards and open-air passages can bring in light and help air move through the building. Some of the hallways even had openings instead of normal windows, almost like the building was designed to breathe. At night, those same spaces felt completely different. The pool, the courtyard, the old walls, and the quiet walkways all felt more mysterious under the lights. There were also antique-style furniture pieces and old decorative details throughout the hotel. Some parts of the building felt almost like a small museum, with old chairs, tables, paintings, and objects that matched the historic atmosphere. Looking back, I'm really glad I chose this hotel instead of a large modern hotel. Staying inside a classic French Quarter building made the whole New Orleans experience feel more connected to the past. And I feel lucky to stay in one of its few historic rooms. Even after going back to New York, I think this hotel will stay in my memory for a long time. And now it was finally time to get some sleep. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.